Over the last 1,800 miles on the Crux, I've asked myself a handful of times, should I have gone with something aggressive like the Crux, or should I have gone with something less aggressive like the Diverge? So I phoned a friend and borrowed his Diverge to find out if the Crux was the right decision over the Diverge. This Diverge is a full SRAM red ETAP Axis build with a 1x drivetrain and an Eagle 1050 cassette. It has the Revolve Terra CLX wheels with 38mm Pathfinder Pro tires. This has a dropper post as well as the Future Shock 2.0 with the adjustable dial. It's custom painted with a 50-50 paint job, one side being dark, one side being light. This particular build comes in at just over 20 pounds. The Crux has gone through a handful of iterations, ultimately landing on the Force ETAP Axis double chainring with a 4835 chainring and a 1036 cassette in the rear. I've had a handful of different wheel sets here, from the Zip 303Ss to the Reserve 32s to the NV45s. Current wheels are Reserve 32s with a set of 40mm Continental Terra Speed tires. This build comes in right above 17 pounds. Aesthetically, I think the paint job on this particular Diverge is awesome. One side has a light white pearl that sparkles in the sun, and the other side has this black with these kind of gold cracks going throughout. Generally speaking, I think the Crux is the better looking bike. I like the classic look, I like the round tubes, I like the clean lines. It's a Peter Denk designed bike, and so it takes a lot of the styling from the Athos, which I think is a beautiful bike. One of the things that I really like is that it doesn't have any disproportionately large tubes like you see on the Diverge. Before you ever exit the pavement to begin a gravel journey, you can tell just how different these two bikes are. On road, the Crux feels a lot like a road bike or an all-road bike with a more relaxed geometry. It picks up and maintains speed quite well, and because it's not as stiff as a traditional road bike, it's very forgiving and comfortable on longer rides. Handling is quite agile, both in and out of corners, and the acceleration is quick. The Diverge, on the other hand, feels a lot more like a traditional gravel bike. Immediately you'll notice that you're set back a little bit further, that the geometry is a little bit more relaxed, and that you're sitting a hair more upright. Picking up and maintaining speed takes a little bit more effort, and it reminds me a lot of my Cervelo Aspero. Coming in and out of corners is a bit cumbersome, and you have to work with the bike bit more than you do on the Crux. When you take these bikes off-road, the dynamic completely changes. That laid-back, more relaxed geometry of the Diverge now plays to your advantage and gives you confidence and comfort needed to plow through more technical terrain. If comfortable and extremely confident is your definition of fun, then the Diverge is your jam. And when it comes to storage, the Diverge can't be beat. In the down tube alone, there's enough storage for gels, a tube, maybe some CO2, whatever you want to put in there. There are mounts for 4 bottles, and there are mounts on the front fork, so you can go bike packing, you can go wherever you want to go. See, the Diverge is probably the best pick for long hauls. And let's not forget about that somewhat controversial Future Shock 2.0 with the adjustable dial. There's no denying that it makes the ride more comfortable. There's no denying that it absorbs a lot of the road and gravel chatter. But I can tell you, for me, it's not really a big selling point. It's almost like having just a little bit of travel, but it's not enough to really move the needle for me. If your definition of fun is playful and lively, well, then the Crux is your jam. And that's not to say that it doesn't inspire confidence, it's just that it makes you earn it just a little bit more than the Diverge. The handling is really sharp, it accelerates quickly, it climbs really well, it's nimble, and for just a second, you may forget that you are on a gravel bike, or at least a light gravel bike. And while both of these bikes have clearance for 47mm tires, you may very quickly find yourself under-biked on the Crux and wish that you had the stability and confidence of the Diverge. But I would also argue that those who own the Crux and those who are considering the Crux understand this trade-off between versatility and speed. The retail on each of these bikes is $12,250. And while value is a subjective term, there's always going to be somebody out there who's going to explain how you can get the exact same knockoff bike for half of the price. To which, of course, I always argue that when you go to sell that bike, you're going to lose just as much money because they're both depreciating assets, so you might as well just buy the name brand. Anyways, I digress. If value is your main decision driver, I'd take a close look at the Pro, Expert, and the Comp models, with the Expert model probably being the best value, giving you the bulk of the benefits at a fraction of the price of the S-Works model. I can tell you that I've gotten a ton of value out of the Crux, and of the 3 bikes that I own, it's the Crux that I look forward to riding the most. It's always fun, it always delivers, and it's always an enjoyable ride. If I had to choose just one, and I really take a hard look at my riding style, I really just want a bike that can handle light gravel, fire roads, and the occasional technical terrain. And if that's the case, the Crux really is the best bike for me, and it's performed flawlessly in all of those settings. If I was riding more technical gravel, or if I was going on longer adventures or needed to mount things onto my bike, the Diverge would probably be a safe bet. But at some point, I can't help but ask myself, don't you just want to be on a mountain bike? And that's where I struggle with the Diverge. See, the Diverge feels like a little bit of a slog when you're on pavement, en route to gravel. And when you get off the gravel and you have to ride back home, well, guess what? You're gonna have that same slog back home. And if that's the case, again, I might as well just be on a mountain bike. If I were more concerned about riding in technical terrain and the capabilities of the Crux, before I considered scrapping the Crux, I'd probably look closely at a better wheel and tire combo, something that would give me a bit more stability, or even go from a double chainring down to a single chainring so I could take advantage of the full tire clearance, which is 47 millimeters. I originally bought the Crux because I envisioned it as a do-it-all bike, and it's done everything I've asked it to and then some. For about a month this summer, I had it set up with the NV45 ARs and 42 millimeter Pathfinder Pro tires. During that month, I did everything from Grodio to local group road rides to Utah's Alpine Loop, up and down, and the Crux descended and handled fantastically in every single situation that I threw at it. There was probably only 1 or 2 sections over that 1-month period where I really wish that I had something that was more relaxed, something that maybe was a 1-by with a 1050 cassette. I think I've really found a sweet spot with the Crux, and I couldn't be happier with it. What's your pick, Crux or Diverge? Let me know in the comments below. Over the next couple of weeks, we've got a handful of videos coming up. We're gonna do a Melee versus Athos. We're gonna do a 10,000 mile SL7 review. We're gonna talk more about the Melee as a do-it-all bike, and we're gonna talk about some helmet head-to-heads. We've got a 200 mile bike race in 2 weeks, so it's gonna be a busy time. Until next time,